Yo, it's your boy Demaxin222 on YouTube, and I'm back again with another video. Watch what Dr. Vandana Shiva from India said about Bill Gates and his demonic agenda in Africa. And to those of you who haven't subscribed to our channel, please do it now and click on the bell button, because we'll be bringing you a lot of these stories. Thank you very much. Peace. Bye. Enjoy the video.
In Ghana, there is a village where in the average living condition, the average life expectancy of the people is 25 years, because there are companies here in Europe, big companies in Europe, who went with all their waste products that are toxicated chemical products, and then dump them in Africa water in this ocean. And some of these things affect greatly the population living close there to this area. And then also most of these electrical products, whether scrap, telephone, batteries, and all these things that have poison, they deposit this thing in some of these Africa villages as source of waste that destroy this environment. And mostly it is women the first person that are affected, because in Africa it is the women who went out to fetch water in the rivers and in the seas, and most of these waters have been polluted by this toxicated chemical deposed in the water by European company. What do you think about this, and how do you think these things should be changed in the world?
You know, there's a poster behind you which says short life products are destroying our future. Some of the people who would like to turn the climate crisis they've created into a new marketing opportunity. There's a lot of language of Bill Gates being a savior of the COP, and he's been presented around with heads of state, and the language he's using is decentralized solar is primitive. They want to appropriate all of the land, the biomass, and all the richness that supports life. And he is pushing a very dangerous proposal for Africa called AGRA, the Alliance for the Green Revolution in Africa, which basically means chemical fertilizers. That's why the first column here is about how much chemical fertilizers and industrial farming contribute to climate change. That's Norman Borlaug, who adapted plants to chemicals. Now the big push is coming from Bill Gates. So this is a toxic economy, and its roots are in war. All the chemicals we use in agriculture came from war. And Bill Gates is the carrier of this toxic future today. And then there are Monsantos and there are Syngentas and the fertilizer companies, whom I call the Exxons of agriculture. They're driving the language of this Yara, Cargill. So we've to get out of this toxic economy, toxic politics. We've got to turn to biodiversity and the earth. And we've got to start realizing that for everything that's produced through toxics, we have an ecological alternative. For the chemical farming, we have organic farming. For chemical fibers, petrochemical fibers, we have natural fibers. And everything that we do with the earth protects the earth, reduces the pollution, creates more meaningful work, increases democracy. So we have two parts very clearly coming out of the COP. A Bill Gates riding high and saying, I took software which belonged to everyone, made it my property, collected royalties, became a billionaire out of nothing, out of stolen software, and now I'll behave as if I'm the big philanthropist. He's a thief. And all of the 1% solutions are solutions of theft. And something extremely serious is at stake. I have a book called Making Peace with the Earth, in which I have a whole chapter on what they're calling the green economy, where they really are appropriating our language of green and then saying, no, a woman carrying twigs to make food, that's polluting. We're going to ban it. People having their own seats, we won't allow it. So they would like to take the 75% economy of the world, which is what I call the biodiversity economy, which is all of our countries, which is large parts of the new movements in the north. And they're trying very hard to say, we'll criminalize that. We will define what's innovation, we'll define what's pollution, we'll define what's clean, we'll define what's smart. These are the code words of their new empire. Smart, innovation, clean. We want life. They don't use the word life. They're scared of life.
What about the geoengineering?
That's part of the fourth solution I mentioned here. And he's financing it.
That's why
all of you, I suggest, keep track of Bill Gates. He is going to be the biggest continuer of this model that must change.
Is he linked with that? With
He is biggest financier. Biggest
Yeah.
financier of geoengineering projects. Biggest.
Yeah. And Monsanto too is linked with that?
Monsanto maybe, for sure,
Yeah.
because Monsanto is breeding for heavy metals.
Okay, and because the soil becomes dry with
Yeah.
the geo and provide the solution, right?
Well, you know, Monsanto has
Yeah.
bought, if you read that sheet I've given, Monsanto has bought the world's biggest climate data corporation. It has bought the world's biggest soil data corporation. And basically what they're looking for, I mean, we've seen what happened with seed. Monsanto said, I'm going to own the seed. And I'll collect royalties. And I'll push GMOs because that way I can pretend I invented the seed. They're now looking for trapping farmers into buying soil and climate data from them. Which is why I am totally against carbon trading. Because living carbon, you know, a tree is living carbon. And I've critiqued the G8. So you can't decarbonize the world, we'd be dead. What you need to do is get rid of fossil fuels. Why are they using the term decarbonization? They're using it to make the living carbon economy of people illegal. And there are enough young people who feel, solar, wonderful. A few twigs, dirty. No, the twigs are recycling the carbon that was fixed in that twig. They're not generating carbon or emissions beyond the carbon cycle. It's a closed cycle. Fossil burning is going beyond the cycle. And I'm reading more and more items in India. First village to become clean, to ban biomass and shift to fossil energy. And they're calling it clean. So there's a twist in the perception of what's clean. And they're already waiting to think of, not only will they control agriculture. Mr. Gates has put out a plan for one agriculture. All universities working through him. He's already privatizing the world's public gene banks. All. The CG system, it's called the Consultative Group of International Agriculture Research, where our seeds are kept. He's using his money to destroy the public's breeding and saying, hand this over to the corporations. Then soil, instead of you knowing what the soil is like, instead of a local lab working with farmers to say, this is your soil fertility, this is your soil food web, satellites are going to be used. And Monsanto has already made an agreement with Deere, you know, the tractor company, that in those machines they're going to fix Monsanto spyware, it's called. So when the tractor moves, it's going to send the data of what the farmer grew, which variety he grew, how much crop he had had, and they're looking for a total control system that has already destroyed the planet but pretending it's clean now. And so what do we need? What we need at this point is a much deeper understanding of ecological processes. To not get confused with this language. A much deeper celebration of life, our lives, the planet's life, and a much deeper courage to say no to this rubbish.
I have another question.
Well, let other